Welcome to our PsyD webinar. I'm Dr. Bradley Cypher, and I'm the admissions advisor for the Psy.D program. The format today of today's webinar is pretty straightforward. First, I have a PowerPoint presentation where I'm going to highlight some of the more salient aspects of the Psy.D program, and then we're going to finish with some Q&A. So if you have any questions at any time over the course of the presentation, please lodge them in the chat box or in the question and answer box, and I will field your questions at the end of the presentation. Also notice that I have included my email and my Calendly link as well as other resources in the chat box. So please send me an email, find a place to talk with me in Calendly, and I'd be happy to speak with you, and I look forward to doing so. Okay, so without any further ado, this is the overview of the doctoral program in psychology at Divine Mercy University. A little bit about me. I recently finished my own doctorate in theology at Ave Maria University. I wrote my doctoral dissertation on addiction, and so I approached what I regard to be a rather timely topic from an interdisciplinary perspective using philosophy, theology, and psychology. And after I defended, I knew I wanted to get involved with the work of Divine Mercy. And so here I am working in admissions, and my mission right now is to get you into basically the career of your profession, to be the career of your dreams, to be a healer through the lenses of faith and psychology. Okay, so if we look at where we are now in our school's history, there's two distinct sort of schools within the larger umbrella of Divine Mercy University. There's a School of Counseling, which has a master's program chiefly online, and there's an Institute for the Psychological Sciences, which houses both a residential doctoral program, but also a master's level master's program online. Okay, so that's sort of where we are in terms of the structure of the school. Our mission is to heal and honor the totality of what it means to be human. And by this, I mean we are integrating the best psychological science with a firm and sort of fleshed out Catholic anthropology. And in so doing, we form mental health professionals of the highest caliber through rigorous academic and clinical training. We are located just outside of Washington, D.C., in the Sterling area. So we're just in the suburbs, which means that you have easy access to city life if you enjoy the hustle and bustle of a city, or if you enjoy sort of like the more outdoors, and what we have that too. That's on the western side of the state. We have the Appalachian Trail that runs through Northern Virginia and into West Virginia and Maryland. We are also recognized by a number of accreditation agencies that I think is speaking to our really just high standards, high academic standards, high clinical standards through the following institutions: the State Council of Higher Education in Virginia, the Association of State and Provisional Psychology Boards. Here we have the American Psychological Association, maybe the most sort of prominent one, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, and National Council of State Authorization of Reciprocity Agreements. So again, no fewer than five sort of well-recognized accreditation agencies are speaking to our commitment to high academic standards. All right, so sometimes people will ask me, well, what is the difference really between the doctoral program and like a master's? Say if I wanted to be a clinician, I could get a master's in counseling. Why do a doctorate? Well, to my mind, there are three major differences between these two programs. The first is at the doctoral level, there's way more attention to clinical assessments. Okay, so, but whether that be assessments done with the personalities or through the cognitive tests, you're going to get an extremely sort of comprehensive take on all of these tests as a doctoral student with us. And that means you have no fewer than 4 courses in assessment in the first 2 years of the program. Now, the other major difference is the total time that you spend in the clinic preparing to become a healer, a therapist. So 3,500 clinical hours are required for the doctorate versus 700 at the master's level. So this is 5 times as much. It means that you're that much more prepared to help people, resolve traumas and heal, things like that. So you're that much more prepared as a clinician. The third major difference is the dissertation. Maybe unsurprisingly, at the doctoral level, a dissertation is going to be part and parcel. There are two major dissertations that we would allow you to do here. They are the theoretical dissertation on the one hand and the empirical dissertation on the other. So the empirical dissertation tends to be much more data-driven. So if you like numbers, if you like statistics, if you enjoy sort of gathering data and then sort of analyzing that data, then a empirical dissertation can be a great one. We've had an uptick in the number of people that have done the empirical dissertations in recent years, but historically we've actually had more people do the theoreticals. So if you enjoy ideas and you love sort of seeing how ideas interact with clinical practice, then the theoretical dissertation actually is probably a better fit for you. So again, like historically, that was more of our wheelhouse, and we've now at this point in our history, we have a nice equilibrium between the two. We have about as many students that are doing empirical dissertations as we have theoretical. Okay, now it is a 5-year program. You will receive a Master of Psychology en route to the doctoral degree. So after the end of your successful completion of courses in year 2, you're awarded an MPsy. And then in the 5th year, you get your PsyD. Now, let me show you what the curriculum is going to look like for you. All right. Now, in many ways, this curriculum is perhaps analogous to medical school. I like to draw that analogy for people because if you notice in sort of in the first 2 years, lots of courses, right? Um, Much like if you were a medical student, you know, a lot of it is getting those big sort of meaty science courses out of the way in the first couple of years so that you can apply them in a clinical setting to your patients in the 3rd and the 4th years primarily. You will see maybe 2 or 3 clients in the 2nd year. That is to kind of get you just your feet wet, right? Your first foray into the clinical practice, while also not overwhelming you with too many clients because, of course, you're still you're still taking classes. Now, but in the 3rd and the 4th year, there's maybe 3 to 4 times as many clients. So maybe you have 2 to 3 clients in year 2. You'll probably have between 7 and 9 clients in years 3 to 4, okay? And these are at local clinics in the Sterling, near the Sterling area, or maybe in the DC area. And then, so in the 5th year, there's no courses at all. It's an internship. So just as a medical student would go to a residency, say if they were interested in dermatology or they wanted to do family practice or pediatrics or orthopedic surgery, whatever, right? In psychology, uh, something very similar is operative. You go to an internship specializing in whatever area you wanted to focus in on. So for example, say you wanted to do working with an older population, you wanted to get into geriatrics. Okay, so you could do an internship really specialized around geriatrics, or you wanted to work with kids. There are plenty of internships out there that are specifically for children or adolescents or young adults, whatever it might be. Or if you wanted to work with a specific pathology, maybe you really wanted to do, um, bipolar or schizophrenia, or you wanted to work with addicted populations, whatever it might be, chances are there's probably an internship out there for you. Now, we've sent students to internships basically all over the country. So, it depends on where the internship is located. It could be kind of far flung as, say, California or as close as the DC area. In fact, if you wanted to stay close, that could probably be accommodated. We've had plenty of students that have stayed close in the DC area and just they didn't want to move. That's okay if that's you, because there's plenty of those that are really good APA accredited schools, excuse me, APA accredited internships in the DC area. Okay, these are overall some discernment questions. Is the PsyD the program for you, right? Do you want to help people flourish? Are you interested in the science, behind human behavior? Do you want to become an instrument of healing through the psychological sciences? Are you interested in performing psychological tests and assessments to diagnose your clients and create a treatment plan? And are you looking to start a career as a licensed mental health professional, but specifically as a clinical psychologist? Now, and also, do you have the ability to desire to work with all types of clients, from more acute care to more challenging and long-term client cases? So if you're hearing this and it's resonating with you, and if you're thinking, well, yeah, I mean, yes to all of these, then the PsyD may very well be a good fit for you. Now, how does Divine Mercy compare to other programs? Super common question. In some ways, You might say that we're quite similar, in fact. We are APA accredited, so we abide by all the major stipulations set forth by the APA. So things like foundations in psychological science and research, integrity and practice, assessment and diagnosis, therapeutic intervention, and professional roles. Now, despite that overarching broad academic similarity, there's also one way in which we're decidedly distinct and unique. And that is that we're a proudly Catholic institution. We believe deeply in what it means to be human as understood by the Catholic magisterium through the sources of tradition and scripture, right? And so we see the human person not in a reductive sense, not in the sense of a being that is sort of just the product of mere biology. Although we are certainly material, we're also spiritual. We're also a being that's made in God's own image and likeness. And for that reason, this rich theological understanding of our humanity allows us to give a lot of intelligibility to the therapeutic practice, right? After all, we give therapy to humans and not animals, right? And so understanding our humanity as in its totality, in understanding the human person as having intrinsic dignity, intrinsic worth, right? In a way that's completely ineradicable, regardless of a person's histories or traumas or sins or whatever. We maintain the goodness of the human person as created by God. Now, upon graduation from the doctoral program, there are so many different places in which one could work. And these are just, here, there are just a few of them. Working in a psychiatric hospital. You could work with a medical team if you enjoy working with maybe the traditional medical establishment. Military establishments. So this is a big one these days. The military, unsurprisingly, has a lot of money, and they're more interested now in getting their people help. A lot of veterans are out there. They're hurting with these severe traumas from battle, PTSD, things like that. And the military is giving a lot of money to psychologists to help their people get the healing that they need. Perhaps the most important one of all is private practice. Private practice allows people a lot of individual flexibility, to basically set your own hours, treat the people you want to treat. If you wanted to specialize, say, in whatever your field might be, if you wanted to do, schizophrenia or something like that, if you really wanted to treat the population, you could. So for that reason, private practice, it's flexibility and the ability to kind of scale your own business, to be in business for yourself is attractive to a lot of people. So if there's an entrepreneur within you, if there's an entrepreneur and a psychologist within you, this can be a fantastic, thing to do, because if you love business and you love healing and you love psychology, this is a great thing. If you can't stand the entrepreneurial side of it, if you don't like having to deal with, marketing and selling and having a website, if that doesn't appeal to you, that's okay. Maybe this isn't for you, because there's plenty of other more institutional kind of situations that you could immerse yourself in. But for those that love like the idea of, being in business for yourself, this can be a fantastic option. Okay, the other thing, outpatient clinics, clinical facilities, as I say, institutional settings are for many others that enjoy working within a broader structure. And then also the diocesan consultation is a big one, especially for Divine Mercy alumni, because we have a really sterling reputation for being a school that is committed both to excellence in psychology and understanding all of the nuance and the science behind modern psychology, while also tethering it with a strong Catholic outlook on the human person, right? And so for that reason, a lot of times our psychologists get hired by seminaries or by dioceses that want to, get people tested. Like a classic example would be people that want to apply for the seminary. Maybe young men are applying to be priests. They often will need psychological evaluation in order to assess whether they can handle the demands of a priestly ministry. And the only people that can do that are psychologists. Okay, so that's a common thing. If working with religious or working with a diocese is attractive to you, there's no better place to do that than to get trained um, at Divine Mercy. Okay, so here we have a couple of our alumni that are speaking to their experience with us. James Walovich is saying here, in our clinical psychology program, the training is focused on healing the whole person, right? That's a big thing with us, right? Treating not just a symptom, right? Because it's that's can be a very reductive way of looking at a person, rather that we're treating a human, right? That has this, again, this intrinsic dignity that may be struggling or suffering with a certain pathology, a certain neurosis, but that the centerpiece is always the human person. Okay, Kristen Long. I was drawn to the study program as I would serve others in a more profound way than my previous positions offered, right? So one can obviously help people in a whole host of different professions, regardless of whether you're an accountant or, an attorney or whatever. But there's a way in which the psychologist heals people in a way that is just unlike any other profession, right? And so that's really kind of a special calling. And for those that are called to this work, I mean, there's hardly anything better. Okay, Timothy White. This school is not afraid to teach you what it means to be human at every level, psychologically, philosophically, theologically. That's why I like it. Okay, and Kirsten Curtis. I'm so thankful for DMU. The faculty members are very supportive, and I received lots of hands-on clinical experience. Okay, here we have the story of William Johnson. William is a doctoral student with us now. He is approaching the end of the program, so he's almost done. And this is sort of about him and how he came to be interested in treating PTSD. He came from a military background himself, so let's hear his story.
Hi, my name is William Johnston, and I'm a Psy.D student at Divine Mercy University, currently approaching the end of my third year in the program. Military service runs in my family, and so both my grandparents served, my parents both served. This door, the Psy.D program at Divine Mercy University, opened that opportunity for me to continue to give back, to conduct research, and hopefully implement a more robust program to treat PTSD as it relates to combat veterans. DMU has certainly provided the integration that I saw in terms of my formation, both the philosophy and theology core, in addition to the psychology curriculum, has provided me growth in terms of my faith and my role as a husband and father, and of course, a psychological clinician. So in essence, the Catholic Christian meta model of the human person is why I'm here, both for my own sake as well as the sake of my future clients.
All right, this is another story of a recently graduated alumna.
I would say that being a student at DY Mercy University or DMU is one of the best things that happens to me. I really appreciate a great support from faculty members and also classmates. I have gained a great deal of knowledge in all aspects of clinical practice, research, and also professional development. DMU not only provides students with strong academic skills, but also prepares them for a career in psychology. I personally benefit from mentorship with academic advisor and clinical supervisors. As a person, what I most appreciate from DMU is that its mission helped broaden my perspectives in understanding a human person through the lens of Catholicism. Catholic principle, especially in hope, love, and faith, are very valuable and certainly helped me become a better clinician.
All right, we have one more story. This is the story of Isaiah Lamb. Isaiah was a Catholic seminarian prior to enrolling with us in the doctoral program. So at the time of the video, he was in his second year. Now he's in his last year. He's an intern. He's out, actually now he's out with University of St. Thomas in Minnesota, helping with college counseling center there. So let's hear his story.
I'm originally from the state of South Dakota. And so I grew up there most of my life, went to school at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, was I studied psychology there, but I kind of intended to go to the medical field. And then after, kind of in the midst of my undergraduate, I decided that I wanted to go to the seminary, Catholic seminary, to study to be a priest. So I had this love for psychology that was kind of there, I think, from an early age, just wanting to know how people function, why they do the things that they do. And then I found myself in seminary learning all these philosophical truths about humans. One of the first courses I took was philosophy of the human person, like person's body and soul, and that there's this profound dignity attached to being human. Later discerned out of the seminary, returned to Nebraska to finish up my degree, and deciding at this point, well, I don't really want to go into medicine, but I do like have this desire to care for people. And I also have learned, again, like this philosophy about humans and the goodness. So I took a year off. I built pipe organs for a year. I always love telling people that. It's a pretty unique job. It was fun. But ultimately that led me, I decided to then do a year of service with the homeless in Denver, an organization called Christ in the City. And there I like to say that all the things I had been learning about and dreaming about, psychology, philosophy, it was this incarnational experience of encountering people on the street in this profound suffering, and mental anguish, and substance abuse, what have you. And just actually experiencing that firsthand made everything kind of click for me. Like, okay, I have the ability to affect change and bring hope to people in the worst moments of their life. And so for me at that point, it was just very clear, everything was starting to converge, and felt more so that I wanted to pursue psychology. And so DMU was kind of my first choice, because everything that I had been learning about kind of just, again, converged here, right? The psychology, the philosophy, theology, and it just seemed like the perfect fit. So I applied, long story short, and got in, and in my second year now, and it's been absolutely more than I could have hoped for. I've had so much knowledge shoved in my brain the last year. I don't even know how it's possible, but it's just been a beautiful and awesome journey.
All right. All right. So I want to say a quick word about our faculty. Okay, definitely as this indicates, distinguished, faithful, and pioneering group of people. To the left here is Dr. Lisa Kalicki. She's our dean. She's a specialist in assessment and therapy broadly. In the middle here is Dr. Diane Graves, specializing in child and developmental psychology. To the right, Dr. Lena Ariana is our director of clinical training. Now, these guys here at the bottom were the founding faculty members, actually, of our school dating back to the late 90s, early 2000s. Dr. Phil Scrofani, specializing in CBT and group therapy. In the middle there, Dr. Bill Nordling, child, marriage, and family therapy. And Dr. Bitts there to the right, to the bottom. Really, he is such a instrumental founding member. I mean, he's published extensively on the intersection and interaction between faith and psychology, theology and psychology. He just retired, but his legacy sort of endures to this day. Now, to become a psychologist in America, a doctoral degree is, of course, required. There's about a 9 to 12 month period of postdoctoral supervision. So after you finish your PsyD, there's that period of time you will be kind of under a licensed clinical psychologist before you finally take your board exams. We have an imperfect but very strong, 95% licensure rate from the past decade of data. Now, in terms of the outlook, right, within the labor force, it's like, I would put it this way. As the data indicates, there's about a 3% average growth for most professions in America projected in the next 10 years. In psychology, however, that number is twice as much, 6%, right? What explains that? Well, there's tons of demand for this work. There's so many people out there. They're hurting, they're alone, they're isolated, they're addicted. They need a good therapist. They need people like you to answer the call, their vocation to heal and to help, right? The other thing I would say, in addition to the sort of like the demand side, if you look at the supply side, if you just like an economic kind of lens here for a minute, there's limited supply of PsyDs. Why? It's hard to get a PsyD. 5 years of study is intense, it's rigorous, right? So to get a PsyD puts you in a rather elite and distinguished group of people that are able to provide services that very few people can do, right? We talked earlier about the role of testing in psychology, the how psychologists can conduct testing in a way that a lot of master level people just can't. And there's nothing wrong with being a master level therapist. They do a lot of great work for people. But if you look at it from like an economic side, tons of demand for this work and very limited supply means that you can do very well for yourself as a psychologist. Now, funding your education, it's $1,170 per credit for 122 credits over 5 years. The full price is $142,740. That does not include indirect expenses, though, things like housing, gas, food, etc. Many of our students do apply for and receive federal aid, those are through a FAFSA form, right? We also offer work study opportunities on campus. So if you want to hold down a job with us while you're a graduate student, we could certainly provide you with that. And then also we have a whole bunch of scholarships that could really kind of defray this. So this is the total cost here. I would say that most doctoral students will not pay that full amount. You're looking more in the realm of 115 to 130, right? You're looking at probably between a 10 to 20% discount from that, just from scholarships and work study, things like that. So it's often a little bit less. The biggest scholarship by far is this one right here, the 50% off merit scholarship. Now that is competitive. It is, not easy to get. We probably give out merit scholarships to 3 or 4 people a year, usually a couple 50% offs and maybe a couple 25%. So if you have a good GPA and you interview well, you're certainly, in the running for this kind of thing. Otherwise, there's all these other, institutional scholarships to which you could apply. I certainly encourage you to do so, but only after you've been notified of admission, right? It's not, a super great use of your time to apply for things when you're not in the school, right? So hold off on that. If you have questions about scholarships, get in touch with me. I'd be happy to chat about it. In terms of admissions requirements, we do require that everybody have at least a baccalaureate degree, so a BA or BS from a regionally accredited school. It is good if you have studied psychology, but in no way is it required, okay? So if you studied something seemingly unrelated like chemistry or, math or physics or something in the humanities, maybe it was English or history or whatever, it's okay. We've received applications from students that have degrees from all over the academic spectrum. Totally fine. It's much more important that you've done well academically and that you're open to learning, right? That you're interested in psychology and you can articulate to the admissions committee, your interest in psychology and why you want to be a psychologist. At least a 3.0 GPA on a 4.0 scale. So if you had a little bit less than that, like maybe you had a 3, or excuse me, maybe you had a 2, 7, 8, 9, something like that, get in touch with me, see what we can do. Sometimes there are exceptions that can be made to that rule. So just contact me and see if there's something that we can do for you. Now, if this is making sense, okay, the next step after this is the online application. Okay, now you can find this application on our website at divinemercy.edu. There's a little teal button on the upper right hand corner. You hit that, it says apply, hit that, and then you'll see the applications for the different programs. And there's one that says Psy.D, right? So that would be the one. In this form, it's very data entry driven. So we're not looking at this stage for an essay or transcripts or anything like that. Just data about you, like where you live and where you went to school. There's a couple of financial aid questions it's going to ask you. And then at the end, it will ask you for people that might potentially recommend you to the program. And there we want either professors or work supervisors. So just the names of the people and their contact. Do know, however, this is a common misunderstanding that when you put those recommenders in the form, the online form, they're not going to get contacted. Okay, so strictly speaking, you don't really need their permission at this stage, right? It's just put in their information and go ahead and submit it because they're not going to get contacted. It just remains between us, right? So that's the first stage. So again, if this sounds like it makes sense to you, then that's the first thing to do is to apply online. And then after that, then you can submit all the other stuff I mentioned sort of in passing there. So things like the essays. There are a couple of essays we will require about, why do you want to be a psychologist? What makes you want to study at Divine Mercy? What research do you imagine yourself doing in a dissertation, right? So again, this all happens after the online app is in, okay? So you want to think about that in those stages. Okay, so after the online app, the essay, also the resume. The resume, update that, send it in. And then I mentioned earlier about the recommendations that after the online app is submitted, then you reach out to your people and you say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm applying for the Psy.D at Divine Mercy. Would you mind recommending me? And there you include a little link, hyperlink for them to hit, and that will unveil the recommendation form, and there they can submit it from there. Okay, official transcripts, of course, will need to be sent from any post-secondary institution, right? So if you went to graduate school, both you need undergraduate and graduate. If just undergraduate, then send that. Lastly, the GRE. Okay, so the GRE is indeed required. However, this is probably not the most important part of the overall evaluation, right? So please don't let the GRE get in the way of you obtaining your dreams in life. Okay, so if you have test anxiety, if you're not a huge fan of standardized tests, please don't despair, because while it is true that the faculty committee will look at the score, seldom if is it ever sort of like a make or break it situation. Like I don't know if you've ever excluded someone from admission just because they had a low GRE, right? So if you're worried about the GRE, let me know. We can chat about it. But for the most part, it's something that just needs to get done rather than getting it done perfectly. Okay, so that's basically how we look at it. So again, if you have questions, let me know. Happy to talk about it. Okay, the last thing I want to say is the interview. Okay, so once the application is done, and by that I mean everything is done, all the things that I mentioned, right? The online app, the all the other stuff, right? So like the essay, the GRE, the resume, transcripts, recommendations, all that's in. Okay, then I will submit your application to the dean for review, and then hopefully she'll approve you for an interview. Now, we only have 2 interviews left in this admission cycle. We've already had the one in November. The most imminent and upcoming one is in January 24th. This is a very popular interview, okay? And so popular, in fact, it's already starting to fill up. So, and that may sound like far away from now, January or in late November, but it's actually, not that far away. And like I say, we're getting plenty of applicants already. So, if this is making sense, then you don't want to delay. You want to get it in so you can secure your spot in the interview itself, right? Because January is the last chance that people can be considered for a merit scholarship. If you get into the March interview, that's great, but at that point, you're too late to receive merit scholarship consideration. So again, January, super popular, it's filling up, and it's the last chance for merit scholarship consideration. Okay. So that's all I have for everybody. I do want to take a look at the chat box to see what questions people have. So bear with me for just a quick second. All right, Sylvester. Do you have to defend a dissertation within the PsyD program? Yes, you do. This is normally done toward the end of your time with us. So usually people defend dissertations in years 4 or 5. Sometimes, you might go to an internship, say wherever that might be, and then you travel back here to defend. That happens all the time, super common, right? But yeah, the dissertation, you're expanding the knowledge of whatever area within psychology you want to expand, and that sort of comes with the territory of doing a doctorate, and it's a wonderful thing. It's a challenging thing, but it's immensely rewarding. All right, Catherine. Oh, you're welcome, Catherine. Yeah, God bless you as well. Christopher. Yep, you're welcome, Christopher. Happy to help. Let's see, what else am I missing here? I think there are some other people who have questions. Q&A. Lewis, Okay. Lewis says, do you admit international students? If yes, can one enter PsyD without having masters? Yes to both of those things. Yes, we'd certainly accept international students. We've received people from all over the world. There are a few peculiarities that attend an international application. For example, let's say your degree program that you did didn't have an American GPA. We will need an evaluation um, of that transcript, right, to be distilled into an American GPA. So get in touch with me, Lewis, because we do process international applicants. There's just a couple, again, there's a couple of other things that we can talk about, but yes, the answer is absolutely. And then yes to the second question, absolutely you can apply without a master's. It is a fallacy to think that you need a master's to apply to the doctoral program like our own. Are there doctoral programs out there that require a master's? Absolutely. We are not one of them. Okay, so if you just have a bachelor's and you know that you want to get a PsyD, there's no specific reason unless your GPA is just like really bad. Apart from that, if you did fine in school, then you should just apply to the PsyD, because otherwise you're wasting time and money spent in a master's program. You could just get into the doctorate, right, and move forward with your life, right? So it makes a lot more sense financially and with time to just get the doctorate done. Okay, thank you. That's a great question there, Lewis. I'm in the light there. Okay, Sylvester, do you have to defend a dissertation? Oh, sorry, I already answered that. Gregson, thank you. Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. Happy that this was helpful and informative to you. That's all I have, everybody. I want to take my last chance to make sure I didn't miss anyone. Yep, that's it. Okay, good. So, oh wait, one just came in. Lirio, hello. Is this a cohort program, or how often are the cohort classes offered? Good question. This is a cohort program. So the way it works is every year you're in a new cohort. So it's an annual start in the fall. There's no spring start, there's no summer start. Everybody starts every year in the fall. So every year is a cohort that ranges between 12 and 17-ish students, right? So it's an intentionally small group of people because you get lots of personal attention with our faculty. And we don't want to get too much bigger than that because it would sort of, compromise sort of the way that we've set this up academically, right? So that's how it is. It's a cohort system on an annual basis. Okay, I think that's everybody. Did I miss anybody? Double check. No, I don't think so. Okay, wonderful. Well, I hope this was helpful to everybody. Again, if you have any questions whatsoever, get in touch with me. I'd be happy to talk to you and explore more about the PsyD program. Goodbye. God bless.